2, 3, 4. Well, hello and welcome to another tutorial here at Capo Productions. My name is David. I am super excited because it's the first time I've actually posted in a while. I've been traveling Southeast Asia and right now I'm in Bali catching the last little bit of sunlight for the day. I'm also excited because of the fact I get to bring you guys a tutorial today. Today we're looking at how to play Bad Habit by Steve Lacy. Very cool song. One of the things that makes this tutorial slightly different from some other tutorials is the fact that I use a capo to try and minimize the difficulty. So if you're struggling to play the song, hopefully this will make it a little bit easier for you. If you want a link to the chords, check the description below. That'll take you to my Patreon page. And by supporting me on Patreon, you get not only this song, but you also get like so much other content. It really is worth it. So check that out. And let's jump into the tutorial. Alright, the very first thing you're going to want to do is make sure your capo is on the 3rd fret. If for some reason you don't have a capo, don't stress, you can play the song without one and it'll sound just fine. But of course, if you want to play it in the original key, capo on the 3rd fret. It's also in standard tuning, so you don't have to do anything crazy with the strings, just make sure they're in tune, of course. Now, I'm going to split this tutorial into 2 sections. The first section is going to cover the initial chord progression, and the second section is going to look at the chord progression which appears around the 2/3 point in the song. I think that's probably the bridge, I imagine. But that chord progression is much longer and it's quite different to the initial one. So to begin, I'm going to play through this first progression a couple of times and then I'm going to break down what I'm doing with the left and right hands. 2, 3, 4. That's it. That's basically the majority of the song. Now, some of you might be thinking, but dude, what did you do with that like kind of cool percussive thing at the beginning, in the intro? How do you do that? Well, you can stick around to the very end of the video and I'll tag a little section on how to do the percussive parts if you're feeling particularly adventurous today. Okay, so let me break down though this first part and I'll show you more or less the chord shapes and what you need to know. So it starts off with this D flat major 7th over A flat shape, which is a mouthful, but it's really a simple shape to remember. You're going to take your first finger and bar down on the 6th fret. Pretend like the capo is not here. I'm not taking that into account. So it's just the 6th fret on the guitar. And then your 3rd finger is going to be on the 8th fret, but on the 1st string. Really pretty D flat major 7th, A over A flat, meaning the A flat is in the bass. You're going to strum that a total of 5 times. 2, 3, 4, 5. And if you've got a guitar pick, you can totally use a guitar pick for this. I'm just using my fingernails because I'm used to it. And the rhythms will be 1 and 2 and 3. On the 3rd beat, you're going to stop and do a bit of a staccato strum. 1 and 2 and 3. Then you're going to change to this, it's almost like a passing chord. It's an A minor 7 shape, but with a capo it would be a C minor 7th. Very simple chord, just 2 fingers needed to play this chord. And you're going to strum it once, and then also you can do a bit of a staccato strum on this one as well. What I like to do is strum the strings and then use my 3rd finger to stop the sound, which I think sounds really cool. So let's put those first 2 chords together. 2, 3, 4. And then after that, we're going to jump to this very pretty A flat sus 4 over B flat chord, another mouthful. But it's a little tricky to play this one, I think. So if you need to simplify this chord, you totally can. Let me show you what my left hand's doing first. So first finger on the 4th fret, pinky finger on the 6th fret, 3rd finger on the 6th fret, 2nd finger on the 6th fret. So most of your fingers are actually going to be on the 6th fret. And then your first finger has to kind of stretch back. Now some people might find this a bit uncomfortable. What I'd recommend then is to simplify it into a 3-note chord. First finger, pinky finger, 3rd finger. And that actually, you can totally get away with that. It sounds great, I think. But of course, if you can make the stretch, I encourage you to practice it this way. Because you fill out the chord, it's a little bit better rounded without bass notes. Back to the A minor 7 shape, and then you'll go back to the beginning. And then it just repeats over and over and over and over again. And that essentially is the main part of the song. Now, let's talk a little bit about the second section. The second section has a much longer chord progression, and the character is actually very different to the initial progression. So it takes a little bit of adjusting to get a feel for the rhythms in particular, and of course the chord shapes. So let me play through the chord progression twice, and then I'll break down again what I'm doing with the left and right hands. Over and over again. Alright, starting with the first chord, we've got this F sus2 chord, which is actually very simple. You're just going to take your first finger and bar down on the 8th fret, and then you're going to strum from the 4th string, the open 4th string. Being open, it's actually on the 3rd fret because of the capo, but you're going to strum the bottom 4 strings with that bar down. Now, in my opinion, this change that happens next is the hardest part of this song. Getting to this B flat minor 7th shape all the way down here. This is a bit of a challenge. So I would practice this more than anything if I were you, because this is the part that's going to be hardest. You'll also notice, just in terms of the rhythms, that the very first chord is on the strong beat. Everything else is kind of slightly off the strong beat. It's got a bit of a lilt to it, so watch the rhythms, because that's also an easy place to trip up. So F sus2 to this B flat minor 7th. Then we're going to play an E flat 7 chord. You can just use a C7 shape. It's a C major shape with your pinky finger down on the 3rd string. And you'll give that a strum. Also just off the beats. And then to the C minor 7th shape. And then this one you're going to add an extra strum in. So let me lead into that from the beginning. 2, 3, 4. And you'll hear on the 2nd strum on that C minor 7th, that's on the strong beat. So that's a good reference point to have. After you've played that, then you're going to go to this kind of snappier rhythm on the A flat major 7th. That's actually played all the way up here in the original, but I'm simplifying it down an octave. So that's actually playable. Up here it's a bit tricky. If you do want to, you can totally play it up here. What you have to do is take your first finger, put it on the 13th fret, and your 3rd finger on the 15th fret on the 1st string. But then you'll have a big jump to get to the next chord, so you can totally decide what you want to do, but that is an option. But for now, I'm just playing it as this major 7th shape, which I think sounds great. Then, after we've played that, that's the A flat major 7th, we're going to shift to this D flat major 7th shape, which we're going to do twice with this kind of upbeat lilt. And then we're going to change to an C7 shape, which is really an A7 shape with our pinky finger included as well on the 6th fret. Yeah, and then it'll repeat. Okay, so let me run through that from the beginning again. 2, 3, 4. So really, in my opinion, the hardest change is here at the beginning. If you practice this, you should be all set. If you like, you can have the option of not playing the A flat major 7th and playing it all the way up here is totally an option. So yeah, think about if you'd like to do that or not. But basically, that's the whole song. So there's the initial chord progression, which we've gone through, and then there's this chord progression. Okay, thanks so much. Hopefully you found this useful. What I'm going to do to finish off is talk a little bit about this percussive technique that I was using at the beginning. I'm going to do it again and basically tell you what I'm doing with my right hand. This, of course, isn't going to work if you're using a guitar pick, because it's a little bit tricky to strum and hit the strings at the same time to get that like popping sound. So I'm going to play through it and break down what I'm doing. So it's really just a bit of a trick. So what I'm doing is I'm strumming with my index finger, and in the same movement I'm strumming down, my thumb is coming down onto the strings. you can hear that there's virtually no separation between those two sounds. And it really works well if you're strumming and you want to have that percussive sound happening, especially on the strong beats. It's a lot easier to do. So let me give you a second angle so you can see at the beginning. Let me see if I can come a little bit closer over here. Hopefully this helps. Really allowing my thumb and my hand to get into the movement, right? And then my index finger is strumming at the same time. If you slow it right down, you'll see it's like a single fluid motion. And really the key when you're practicing these types of techniques is to practice very slowly and really allow yourself to get into the feel, because it's really like almost a rhythm of what your body's doing and what your right hand is doing. When you first do it a few times, it won't make sense. Your brain needs to take a bit of time to figure it out. I couldn't do it. I sucked really badly at fingerstyle guitar for a long time. And it took me at least a few years of practicing consistently to get used to the feel of these percussion strikes without actually disrupting my playing. So that's something that will take a bit of time in terms of coordination, but practice very slowly. The other thing I did is there was like kind of two taps. The first one is real simple. It's just I'm hitting the strings, and then the second one I'm doing the strum for. If I slow it right down, then it makes complete sense. But if you hear it without that, it sounds a little bit like, whoa, how did you do that? There you have it. Okay, hopefully some of you guys found that last part interesting. But thank you for watching. Good luck with your guitar practicing, and I'll see you guys in the next tutorial. Bye-bye, everyone.